Well, hi, everybody. I'm a compulsive eater. My name is Laura, and I am abstinent today on the gray sheet. This thing, this gray piece of paper. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write my food down. I call it into my sponsor. I don't eat in between no matter what. And I am between lunch and dinner, which is very cool because Gray Sheet gave me a time of day which is in between lunch and dinner, or in between breakfast and lunch, or in between dinner and breakfast, which is really phenomenal. Those are times of day that I didn't really ever have before because I always ate breakfast, I always ate lunch, I always ate dinner, and I always ate in between, no matter what, without exception. So I am really excited to be here um, at a Newcomers meeting. And I like to think about when I share, if it were my first meeting, what would I need to hear? Because sometimes I go to gray sheet meetings and we get pretty well around food in this program. And then we get other issues. And sometimes I hear people talking about the other issues, and I get very like, um, what's the word? Well, there's nowhere else we can talk about food. I came here because I have a food problem. I got a food solution, and I feel like I need to carry that solution to other people who are walking and struggling. So it's very important to me that when I go to a meeting, I hear the basics so that people who are new get the message that I got many moons ago. And just to tell you that I came to Gray Sheet because they used to say, I'm a garden variety compulsive eater. I mean, my story is not dramatic or exciting. Basically what happened was I was a skinny kid who gained weight, went on my first diet, and crossed some line. It's the expression of once a cucumber turns into a pickle, it can never be a cucumber again. And that's what happened to me when I went on my first diet. I um, I kind of got in a fight with food, and I was never like neutral about it again. I was always thinking about food or what I was eating or what diet I should go on or my body or why can you eat that and look that way and I eat this and look this way. And I just became uh, very focused on food and my body and trying to control it. And I heard here that if you have to control something, it's already out of control. So I like to use the analogy of shampoo. Like when I go into the shower and I decide I'm going to wash my hair, I don't think about how much shampoo I'm using. I use a lot or I use a little. It doesn't matter. I wash my hair and I don't think about shampoo until the next time. I don't spend any time. I never think about shampoo. And I don't think if I'm using the right one or the wrong one or too much or too little, nothing. Right. But when it comes to food, um, I'm not neutral. I'm not neutral around food. And so, um, I was overweight. I dieted. I exercised a little bit. I learned to make myself throw up. It didn't make me thin. It just made more room for food. I was a binger. I did a lot of Weight Watchers. I ate in my car. I ate on the street. I ate window shopping. I threw stuff in the garbage. I took it out. I threw it in another garbage. I took it out. Um, I always was like, I'll just eat one. I'll just eat one more, just one more. And I never just ate one or one more because once I put it in my system, and this is what I learned here in Gray Sheet. It says it on the front of our Gray Sheet. For carbohydrate sensitive people, man-made sugars and starches create a craving for more of the same. Therefore, these foods cannot be eaten at all. And that was like good news, horrible news. Um, I my eating was about trying to control what I put in to my body, but I didn't realize that there were certain things I was eating that set up a craving, a literal physical craving. And that led to mental obsession. So I was destined to lose. I was destined to lose because I was constantly eating stuff that kept me in a constant state of craving. And of course, those foods on the Gray Sheet, there's this little paragraph that says foods we avoid. And those foods were all the foods that I ate, all the foods I binged on, all the foods I wanted. And I literally thought that a person would die without those foods, grains especially. I thought you can't live without the sliced stuff. I mean, how would you even like? Um, so I got to Gray Sheet after um, a really bad binge, and I called my mother, who was sober in AA, and she said, there's this thing. It's like AA, but for food. It's called Overeaters Anonymous. And at that point, Gray Sheet was part of Overeaters Anonymous. And I took 90 laxatives, and then I went to this meeting. And I was in a regular body. I probably weighed like what I weigh now at that moment. And I wanted them to tell me that I was too thin to be there. And I was also desperate for an answer because it just got worse and worse. It was more eating, more self-hate, more out of control, more not being able to show up, um, clothes not fitting, uncomfortable in my body, feeling like up to here with food, like I couldn't breathe, and smiling so no one would know. So I went to my first meeting, and it happened to be a Gray Sheet meeting of Overeaters Anonymous, and it was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I thought those people were so depressed. I didn't skip in there like, oh, this looks great. This is my answer. I was like, well, these people are thin. They all seem very depressed. And this whole idea of carbohydrate sensitivity, I didn't even know what a carbohydrate was. So it wasn't like I embraced it immediately, but I got a sponsor. I thought a food sponsor person would be a great thing to have. Like, I like the idea that you would have somebody who would tell you what to eat and somebody that you would commit your food to and you were accountable to. I really like that idea. But the idea of following this particular food plan, which to me had no food on it, that seemed insane. That seemed unreasonable. And then I also heard stuff like that these people measured their food wherever they went, like without exception. Even vegetables and salad they measured, which I thought was ridiculous. Like, who binged on that? I said. That seems insane. This is like, what is this? Anyway, I did it for like a week. Then I left to find something else to do. And what I ended up finding to do was to binge more, to vomit more, to hate myself more, not be able to show up more, just the disease just progresses. So I decided I was going to go back to those gray sheet people, because that was the only thing that I knew. I guess I knew somewhere that they had something that wasn't just a diet, like they had something going on there. So I went back and I thought, I'm going to do it for like 2 weeks and I'm going to clear up and then I'll find something else to do. Because like this was certainly wasn't something I was planning to do for any amount of time because it was outrageous. What they said was you eat these foods, you don't eat those foods. You write your 3 meals down, you call it into a sponsor. If you need to make a change or you have a problem or you make a mistake, you have to call somebody. Um, yeah. And there was nothing in between, which to me was unfathomable. It was no sliced carbohydrate. That was number one that I thought was like impossible to do. And then nothing in between, like there was no free foods. I was so used to eating all the time, always having something in my mouth, that the idea that there was nothing in between, well, I just thought that I would implode. I mean, I'm not sure. Those two things seemed like you'd have to be superhuman or something. Anyway, I got a sponsor. I started to commit my food to her. I called her. Um, she said, make 3 phone calls a day. And I had myself 5 phone numbers. So I had to rotate between those 5 phone numbers. And of course, I didn't know what to say to people. I thought I was being such a pain. I was crying. I cried. Oh my God, I cried all the time. I would go to a meeting, I would see my sponsor, I would start crying. I didn't really taste the food. I didn't really enjoy it, but I wasn't eating compulsively. Like that was crazy. I was eating 3 meals and nothing in between. And so 2 weeks passed. That was, as long as I was going to do it. And then I hadn't found something else to do. I wasn't clear enough, I hadn't cleared up enough to find some. So it's just like, okay, I'll just do it for 2 more weeks. And I did my first 11 months like that. 2 weeks. I'll just do it for 2 more weeks. Call my sponsor, went to a ton of meetings, made phone calls, talked to people, found out how to make foods on the gray sheet. I felt very, very fragile in the world. I didn't go places. I didn't eat with people. I just was like, my focus was putting this first. And does this support my abstinence? Anything I was going to do, I would get on my knees. My sponsor said, get on your knees and ask a higher power for help. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what I believed, but I would just get on my knees and say, God, does this support my abstinence? Is this bringing me closer to the food or closer to recovery? So I just made choices based on that. Just wanted everything to support my abstinence. Because what they said here is that you put your abstinence first and then you build your life around that. Abstinence isn't something that you like squeeze in where it's convenient. It was the foundation is abstinence. And if you can do something else in between meals, great. And if you can't, The goal is to put your head on the pillow abstinent tonight and just not eat until the next meal. Um, and I did that whether I wanted to or didn't, whether I liked it or didn't. Um, yeah, that they said it's just an action. It doesn't matter what you think, it doesn't matter what you feel. They said it only matters what you do. So, um, what was the hardest thing for me to manage in life was food, has since become the easiest thing for me to manage in life because I have a plan, still have a sponsor, I have a community, um, and I have my priorities, abstinence first. So I've had quite a life so far in abstinence. And I have to say that my longest diet was like 11 or 12 days. That was as long as I could hang on without giving back into the food. So when I came here and I remember this gal had 2 years when I came here, and I was like, she hasn't had a piece of X in 2 years. How is that possible? Because for me, it was so miserable to not eat sugars and starches. Like that's all I wanted. And there really is a withdrawal from that stuff. I mean, my body was used to having it every day of my life, every day. Um, what I came to learn is that having none is easier than having some. And so the way that that gal stayed abstinent for 2 years was that taking that stuff out of her system, she wasn't fighting it. There wasn't a craving to fight. There wasn't an obsession to fight. And I didn't understand that until I did it myself. And I got that freedom. And I have been abstinent since April 16th of 1982, which is 42 years. I was only going to be here 2 weeks, folks. I was only going to be here 2 weeks. But you know what? I don't fight the food anymore. Like surrender is an amazing thing. I don't think about those other foods. I'm not neutral. I'm definitely not neutral. I love my food. On Gray Sheet, I've learned how to make delicious food, enjoy it guilt-free. And most of the time, it's easy to weigh measure my food. Most of the time, it's easy to be around foods we avoid because they're not mine, but I still have to protect myself. So, for instance, it was Halloween, and normally we give out stuff to trick-or-treaters. Well, this year, my husband was going to be away over Halloween, and I was going to be in the house by myself. And I thought, oh, I should go buy some of that stuff for the kids. Now, I don't have little kids anymore. Mine are grown up. I had 2 kids in abstinence, got married, divorced, and then married to the right guy. And we had 2 kids, all in abstinence. I've moved, traveled, gone to graduate school. I've done a ton of stuff in abstinence, just throwing that out. But here's the thing. I was like, do I need to get a bag of sugar to give out to little children that I don't know who live in my neighborhood? Wait, I'm a food addict, and I would binge on that stuff. And I don't want to have that stuff in my house, especially when I'm in the house alone. Right now, it doesn't really matter. If someone's here, I could eat it. But there's something about being alone in the house with sugar that I was like, you know what, this year, not turning that light on. I'm not handing out that stuff because no matter, it may be 42 years since my last bite, but it's only an arm's length till my next one. So I still need to protect myself from the disease that is lurking and doing push-ups and is waiting for me. So I come here and I continue to do today what I did back then so that I continue to get the freedom that this program promises us. And I don't eat no matter what. And with that, I'm very happy to be here to have shared my story a little bit and looking forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks.